Axal's whole focus is giving power back to users where you know for sure that when you have a request, it is being executed properly. So our goal is really to leverage these agents all over the place, crypto, outside of crypto, to automate a lot of tasks and leverage blockchains to give people those guarantees. Another area is just with Autopilot, and we're trying to really pitch this as this platform for the masses. Think Robinhood, Wealthfront style UX, but without the middleman that's conning you. Like you have guarantees on execution, set up a crypto portfolio in under 30 seconds, like get allocation across a bunch of stable coins, a bunch of blue chips, all the stuff that you've heard of that you don't understand, meme coin exposure as well, like catered to your risk profile with agents handling it.
We're back with another episode of Building in Public, and we've got the wonderful Ash Ahmed back again for another episode today. What's up, Ash?
Doing good. How about you, Mahesh?
Doing well. It's great to see you, man. And I think it was a few months ago, the last time you were on here, you had just kind of finished your pre-seed fundraise. You got some money in the bank. We're starting to build. It was really just you at that point. Maybe let's start with just like a reminder of kind of what you guys are up to and what the long-term goal is. And, if you could talk a bit about how the team has grown, that'd be awesome too.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of Axal, think of Axal being this network for verifiable agents. And I'm sure everyone see the word agents around a lot, Twitter, elsewhere, like fucking my parents have heard about it now. It's just crazy. In my head, like an agent-driven future, whether these agents are machine learning models or people or market makers, requires guarantees on what they execute. Axal's whole focus is giving power back to users where you know for sure that when you have a request, it is being executed properly. So our goal is really to leverage these agents all over the place, crypto, outside of crypto, to automate a lot of tasks and leverage blockchains to give people those guarantees. And yeah, I guess the vision started off just me with like a one-page paper. Mahesh knows as well. It was like very early, like all over the place, trying different stuff out. And then like felt this level of conviction in this sort of idea that I haven't had for any other idea in a very long time. Did a pre-seed over the summer. Some really good investors got on board and then expanded the team. It's crazy that it's only been 2 months. It feels like it's been like way, way longer. But myself, Ari Santos, he graduated from Harvard Business School just a little bit ago. He's been in crypto for a very long time, was in the US military for like 5 years before that. So like very strong leadership and discipline. Dev, we call him Dev the Dev. He just graduated from NYU. Worked with Yan LeClune and just other folks in the ML space. Wasn't that crypto native and then got super native over the past little bit. He's been building out Autopilot, which is our first agent-powered trading platform. And then Jacob, this guy's like a podcast master in all things like interviewing. He did John McAfee's final interview before the guy died. It's like 1 million views on YouTube. Crazy. Lots of other stuff too, but he's been helping us hustle as well. So I feel like we got a really strong core team and we've been able to ship nonstop.
That's sick. Yeah. I mean, just 4 months ago, it was literally just you. So it's been crazy to see you just build this out so rapid fire. And, the interesting thing that I see when I kind of see what you guys are building is like, you have such a diverse team, man. It's like most people, they raise seed money, they like find an operating partner, they find a dev and they kind of run. I feel like you've been interesting about it because you kind of did that, but you went for people with maybe non-traditional crypto backgrounds, or you went for people that had just kind of like proven themselves on something like that John McAfee interview. And you said, hey, you seem like you know how to create some content. Let's bring you on board and let's do some cool shit. So can you talk a bit about, some of the Guerrilla stuff that Axal has been up to? I've seen some of the content. I've seen, the agent. There's a bunch of stuff you guys are doing. So if you could tell us a little bit about maybe some of the most important things, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll limit it to 3. We're trying to do a lot of shit. Like number 1, the podcast. So we just been like crypto is pretty crowded. Lots of folks are doing good stuff. You guys obviously with proven coverage, really good stuff. We wanted to become the leaders with all things like agents and intents, which 2 months ago even didn't seem that hard. Now it's like very popular space. There's a lot of people doing stuff. And I think we've kind of killed it. So we've interviewed Ilya, founder of Near, obviously, and also one of the co-authors of the original Transformer paper, which people just don't take seriously enough. That's just insane. Like everything AI related is because of that. Then we recently did an interview with Hart, which from Across and Uma, which we're gonna air in a little bit. And we actually had a call last week with the head of Google Flights, which is wild, just way outside of crypto, a whole different area, fun stuff, talk about agents automating travel. So I think the podcast is one. Another area is just with Autopilot, and we're trying to really pitch this as this platform for the masses. Think Robinhood, Wealthfront style UX, but without the middleman that's conning you. Like you have guarantees on execution, set up a crypto portfolio in under 30 seconds. Like people should follow our Twitter and watch some of these videos that we're going to put out for the holidays. I'm going to have my parents and my brother, just random friends, go and try to set this thing up under 20 seconds, like get allocation across a bunch of stable coins, a bunch of blue chips, all the stuff that you've heard of that you don't understand, meme coin exposure as well, like catered to your risk profile with agents handling it. So it's crazy. I think when you have a team of hustlers, you can get so much done, and people index way too much for crypto nativeness. Like I think within 10 seconds of meeting someone, you can tell if they just have the drive. Really, just 10 seconds.
Yeah, 100%. I think the real challenge will be I'm going to send it to my parents and see if they can set it up. I love them to death. They're smart people, but I can barely get them to figure out how Facebook works. So if you can get my mother trading on Axel, you got a killer product that's going to go super far. But one of the other sort of atypical things you guys did, which is part of what I wanted to talk about today, is you launched this thing on virtuals called Gecko. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what it is, kind of why you guys kind of did it, and how it fits into the broader vision of what you guys are building at Axel? Because my thought originally was, Axel was a platform and a user product, but this AI agent angle is definitely something different. And there's all this talk right now about these agents. Some people think they're worth something. A lot of people think they're garbage and quasi meme coins. How do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me this a month ago, I think you or somebody else was one of the first people to even bring up virtuals to me. Like, I would have thought it's complete garbage. Like, I see these like shit posting Twitter bots that have zero functionality. Like, even AI XVT, which is one of the hotter ones right now, like gives you information, but you can't do much beyond that. And I think our mission with Gecko is build something that, of course, is tied to Axel and help showcase all the cool stuff that we're building, whether it's Autopilot or just longer term vision, but become much more action based. So not just like this persona that's cool and fun, which we've curated. Gordon Gekko, for anyone who's ever heard of him, like Wall Street Chad kind of vibe, like content that's super relevant to folks and anything trading related. Of course, I think that's like just fun and engaging, which is beneficial for many ways. But we also want to make this thing trade free. We want to make this thing have connections with Autopilot. We want to make it be controlled with its own wallet, that maybe it trades autonomously. Like a lot of fun, actually useful things that nobody's really doing today. So yeah, I'd say like we tried to move super fast with it. The narrative's been like shifting quite a bit. And the goal is to really cement Gecko as this top virtuals agent that has utility. You think of AI XBT, you think of crypto news, you think of Luna, you think of like entertainment, chat, that sort of stuff. We want Gecko to be like, this thing's actually fucking sick for trading and learning and trying stuff out.
So then why launch the agent for Axel as a whole? Like, are you pivoting the direction of the company? Like, how do you sort of see Gordon Gecko versus the platform that you're building?
Yeah, I see Gecko is super tied into Autopilot. So what we just touched on at the start with like Axel's goal isn't necessarily trading focused. Axel itself, I view as like TaskRabbit, Fiverr, Uber Eats, like any task that you can outsource and you can verify whether that's in crypto or not. Axel at some point can go and handle that. Like hence the call with the Google Flights folks. Like people are excited about agents automating things and having guarantees. Gecko is obviously pretty trading focused. That's the persona and that's the utility that we're trying to create. I view Gecko as like this inroad for you to start to get a sense of what Axel can do. Like our first product, which we focused on heavily, is Autopilot. So get crypto trading like super powerful, super easy for anyone to use. Gecko helps, number one, inform people about that. Number two, make it much easier to use than anything else that you've encountered. I think this is like a part of the AI agent meta that people aren't seeing as excited as much as they should. Like this thing is a new paradigm for UX. It's not like I go to this front end, I type in a button on Uniswap and I go and click a swap button, sign something in my wallet, get this done. Like what this allows is like a seamless integration between where you learn something, like where you gather information, and then where you take action. So I think Gecko is very much focused on Autopilot, and I think it helps illustrate what Axel can do as a whole, but it's really this like top of funnel, super easy entry UX play almost.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting because I think these agent ideas, it's still not clear to people how to even think about them, right? Like they are bots, they are economic value propositions in some cases they're influencers. Why would anyone buy this? So I guess like I'm just trying to get my head around, you've launched this agent, it runs the Autopilot product, it can probably trade on the back end, but like is this marketing? Is this like something that'll accrue value over time? How do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, and to be very clear, this was a completely fair launch, which is something that you don't see a lot for almost any of these tokens. And I think it hopefully adds credence to what I'm about to say. Like I view it as
What do you mean when you say fair launch? First let's dive into that, and then we can maybe dive into the second thing you're talking about.
Yeah. So fair launch means that the team has zero allocation, which is very, very, very rare in crypto. Like you usually see this core team of devs or usually like investors and devs and other folks that can hold the token. And as a result, you're almost always there's some sort of tension between the community or the folks that are buying this and then the core team that's maybe incentivizing certain behaviors or buying up a lot of the token or dumping all of it at once. And with Gecko, we really wanted this to be like a truly autonomous agent. So I think a part of that is like this thing cannot be single-handedly controlled by Ash. This is like the value that it accrues is tied to the functionality that it's capable of, the content it puts out, and a lot of the other things that are on the roadmap. So like make no mistake, there is, of course, Gecko is tied to Autopilot, and a lot of what our core team is doing will help add value to it, like make it useful to you guys, et cetera. But there is no like Ash can screw you or like token holders are tied directly to like what this thing might be able to do. So that's a little bit on the fair launch side. Yeah, I can talk a bit more about the utility and future plans as well. But
Yeah, well, let's keep on the fair launch for a second. We can get to the utility. It was an interesting one because, I mean, I'm an investor in Axal. Investors didn't get any allocation in the Gecko token launch itself. So who is actually, like, who is buying this? It's just retail?
it's a really fun mix. So like our Discord, first of all, like volume doubled. We went from like I think 600 or 500 folks in it to like well over 1,000 now, just in the span of the Gecko launch, which is really cool. And when you talk to these folks, like you really do have a very interesting mix. You have folks that have been like in the virtuals agent trenches for a very long time, and they're buying and selling different tokens. They're sick of seeing like another Luna knockoff or another like random thing. Half of these don't even have Twitter accounts. It really is like you're seeing a token and you're seeing a description in a box, and there's no other content to go off of. Like the bar is the standard has been quite low for a while. We have that persona, but then you also have regular people. Like we actually did a collab with a pretty big Twitter influencer just because of the goal of getting this exposed to the masses, like Axel's mission as a whole and just agents in general. And we got a lot of like pure retail. Like we're not even talking like crypto native folks. We're talking like people in machine learning or folks that have just been playing around with dev side projects. Like a lot of these agent frameworks are open sourced, and you get a lot of regular people that are excited about stuff. So you have that whole crowd as well that's excited about what we can put out. And they've frankly never heard of blockchains being intersected with anything AI or agent related. And when they have, it's very grifty. So being able to talk with these folks is exciting. So it is just the community. It's regular people out there. Some sophisticated folks, some super unsophisticated folks, like pretty good mix.
Yeah, I guess the interesting thing with your product is because it's a consumer product, the people that buy and fuck around with the token are probably also your like target customers, right? So I guess I can see how it's like a community building exercise. But then, so let's talk a little bit about the utility itself then. Like, these people are buying this token. They're buying it partially because they believe in you guys, but partially because maybe they have some other beliefs about what it's going to do in the future. What do you think those beliefs are? And do you think they're accurate?
Yeah, I think that the beliefs are like number one, like just the story and the content. Like if we take the bar and the standard for agents today, which is just like content and community that they've been able to curate, whether it's Luna or AISBT, I think we've done a pretty good job there. Like for a crypto native audience or anybody who's excited about trading, even if you're a retail consumer facing person, which is the target, like Gordon Gecko resonates, like content that's along the lines of like, oh, like a little bit like assholey, a little bit like getting in your face about like certain strategies or what might be going on. So that's number one. I think the more exciting part and the reason why you're holding it is what I was alluding to earlier, actual actions. So not just information, but have Gecko go and trade for you, have Gecko create an autopilot for you, have Gecko be trained, let's say, off of your Twitter history. Like maybe you like a bunch of projects that are in a specific vertical, like you're a big bull on all things monad, let's say, and you don't really care about a lot of other things. And maybe Gecko is able to intelligently understand what tokens you should buy within that ecosystem. So like the sky genuinely is the limit. And I think just to unpack the roadmap a little bit more, next week, and we're gonna, I guess this is a little bit of alpha depending on when this episode comes out, we're gonna release the Gecko terminal. So AISBT and some of these other agents have it as well, exclusive to token holders and folks that use Autopilot, not just a chat forum, but a place where you can start to beta test a lot of these features, depending on your allocation that you have. We've been speaking to a lot of folks as well along the ideas of like Gecko trading for itself. So the Coinbase team has done amazing work with an SDK for agents to basically do function calling while controlling their own wallet with its own private key. So we want at some point for Gecko holders to control a lot of Gecko's DAO decisions and investment decisions and strategies. Like today we're using the virtuals platform and there's a lot there. Imagine a world where like token holders could decide what general strategies or actions Gecko should be allowed to take with its own funds, or you kind of like lock this off entirely. Nobody can control it. You see what it can do, and then profits or revenues distributed amongst holders. So there's a lot of like fun longer term stuff. For now, we're going to start with just autopilot integrations. Like Gecko is this fun, easy way to start using autopilot, like super in your face, super immediate, get started, zero excuses kind of vibe.
Interesting. Definitely different. Has the process of creating the Gecko agent changed how you think about the future of Axel? Because, you know, one of the really interesting things you see on Twitter every day out there is like there were these like meme, you can almost call them meme coins like AI16Z that launched on like DAOs.fun that are now getting bid to like tens of or single digit billions now. It seems like maybe tens of billions in the medium term. And they started as memes and now they're sort of becoming agent launch platforms. Is that where Axel is going, or has this changed your mind at all? Because, you know, one of the things that you mentioned was there might be other agents as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really apt point. I was reading all the AI16Z news over the past couple of days, and it is crazy. It's like they launched purely as a meme coin, and now it is this launch pad for other agents or things. I think it's super in line with Axel. And to be entirely honest, even 3 months ago, we weren't as focused on like people create their own AI agent, like that sort of mentality for how the platform can be used. And now it's like so obviously clear. It's like everyone has their own personal like backstory, stuff that they care about, information from millions of sources, like your social media, your wallet history, all sorts of stuff. It's a no-brainer to create things like Gecko. Obviously, Gecko is kind of like general for the masses, but Autopilot almost is this like personal agent that's maybe not a Twitter persona or a face or a profile picture you can attach to it, but it is like Mahesh's Autopilot, Ash's Autopilot. Like it knows you super well. It could do stuff on your behalf. That is the tip of the iceberg to your point. So Axel should at some point support arbitrary tasks. Like there was a fun OpenAI did this video, I think for one of their older models that they were demoing, where the goal was like buy a strawberry, and it had a lot of function calling and like steps that it goes through. And the ironic part is like it didn't actually buy the strawberry at the end. It was like, oh, like pay Ash upon receipt. And I think it like begs the question of like, okay, let's actually automate this stuff to end with agents. And that's totally something Axel should do. Like, I don't care who gets me a strawberry as long as it's here in the next 5 minutes and it's from one of these stores and I'm paying at most this amount. That's what we're trying to do with intents and agents. And I think it's a whole different use case where it should be a personalized agent, a custom agent spun up on the fly for that sort of task. Flights, travel, sports betting, we're going to release a fun demo around that. Just the sky is really the limit for use cases. And I don't think I would have thought this much about it if it weren't for a lot of these projects really gaining a lot of traction over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Again, I keep going back to it's definitely a different way to build a business and probably something that's uniquely crypto native that you can do, whereby you launch a bot that like is an example of how your product works and has marketing functions and can trade to sort of create. It'll be interesting to sort of see how the public market kind of digests this, because it seems like there are starting to be liquid investors for agents themselves almost as their own asset class. How do you think that evolves over the next year? Do you see like a lot of funds trading these kinds of things, or do you think they're going to focus on, you know, investing in Axel itself as opposed to, you know, buying these sort of agent funds?
That's a really good question, and there's a lot that I don't think I can say, but what I can say is we've been working with the Sequoia team a lot, or not even the team, the agent itself that autonomously decided to invest in the Gecko agent. It's
You're talking
crazy.
about the virtual Sequoia with a K agent, right?
That's a good distinction to make. Yeah. This thing's kind of crazy. It's invested in a lot of other virtual agents, so it's like really just bootstrapping this ecosystem, and it's growing quite a bit. That's something where if you told me this like fucking 2 months ago, I'd be like, this is a joke. Like, there's no way this thing is profitable. There's no way it's like actually doing it autonomously or anything on its own. And you work with it, and it actually is. It's really cool. It takes in a lot of factors. Like, it took in our team background, our product, Gecko's persona, even like a lot of factors that I couldn't have thought about. But yeah, you do see a lot of liquid investors and funds popping up for it. I think around half, it's like, or probably more than half, purely in it for the like hype cycle right now. And they're not that focused on the tech. They just see these tokens like pumping and they're like, oh, cool, I should invest. I think a lot of people are going to get burned precisely. I think it is a bet that we're making, but the bet is like whether it's a year from now or 6 months from now or even 2 months from now, and a lot of these like meme style agents that don't have utility start dying, like they will die. And I think when they die, what is left? Things that have utility. I think AI XBT is like the tip of the iceberg. Axel and Gecko is hopefully much stronger. And then I think there was a final part of what you said, which is like Axel versus Gecko almost, or like where to place the investment. I think like it's really interesting because like what we did A16Z's Crypto Startup School Accelerator, that was like one of my first pieces of exposure to like,
Yeah, how did they react to you launching this token?
yeah, they were very much on the conservative side compared to like the vast majority of other folks that we spoke to for good reason, like for very good reasons. But I think we had a successful launch and we've seen it play out pretty well. But what I was going to say is like they had this whole session where they had these experts, like protocol leaders from top portcos, their own people talk about like when to launch a token and when does that token have utility. And they're preachers of progressive decentralization. Like, don't launch anything too soon. And here I was going to them being like, we want to launch this thing in a week. Like, here's virtual. And I think it's proven a lot of the convictions that I have in crypto that I've heard people say, but I haven't believed until I've lived it. Like, tokens are useful to bootstrap a community. Like even if it comes before a sizable product, even if its price is tied to like future expectations versus like very little today. I think we're trying to do both as much as we can, like strong future roadmap in addition to utility today. But like we've seen it in our own data. Like we're an early stage startup, but we've doubled or tripled in nearly every metric that we cared about just after launching this thing. It's helped us a lot with just growing community of folks that are giving us more literal feedback. Whichever realm of startup world you come at from, like just build and ship as fast as you can or talk to customers and only build what they say. It's like this has helped us tremendously. So I think like you'll see a lot of people almost wanting to invest in these agent tokens, even if the core network or the core protocol is still being built out, which is Axal's case. It's like I can't give an exact timeline on like when this broader network will be built out, when the Axal token will launch, et cetera. But there is like today, get exposure to some of this with an early experiment with Gecko that actually has utility. And I think it's like it's crypto at its best. It's like get people incentivized early on without kind of taking a massive amount of risk or without like not having anything to go off of to begin with. So I've been pretty blown away.
Yeah. How hard was it to actually launch one of these things? Can you maybe talk us through just your process of like, forget the investor side for a second from a technical perspective? Like how did you think through the process of actually getting this out to market?
Yeah. I mean, because of how short our timeline was, we wanted to start as simple as we can. And then, of course, as I'm saying now, add on a lot of functionality over time. I cannot thank the virtuals team enough. They've done like an amazing job. And they themselves it's fun to talk to them because it's like people just like me, like super young team, like they're shipping really fast. There's a lot that doesn't work and a lot that they have to fix, but they made the launch unbelievably easy. I think like start to finish, you could do it totally no code in the span of like 5 minutes if you really, really wanted to. We did a lot of planning on the persona of Gecko, special prompting, a lot of function calling that we're working on now for added functionality. But like the bare minimum, if you wanted to launch an agent and you were passionate about it, like image, couple prompts or descriptions on how it sort of works, some initial liquidity, let's say, to just period launch it, you're done. Like this could be done in 5 to 10
Really?
minutes. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Would you suggest, given your experience, other people that are trying to build like who is this useful for? Who will find it useful to like launch a token like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly evolving. Like, I think you have it's different from pump.fun. Like, I view pump.fun and meme coins as like, it is a pure like attention play for some narrative that you want to try to build out. And the audience for that is pretty big. I think for us, what we're doing is like, folks that are building super retail-y or consumer-facing products. So think like what we're doing with Autopilot. Like I'm literally pitching it as like for the masses. Like my mom can use this, anyone can use this. Like if you want to capture that exposure and make UX as seamless as you possibly can, I think AI agents with a token are like by far the best way to get started here. It's like there's so many examples. AI 16Z in recent days, virtuals for a while, people within these ecosystems that are launching their own thing that are getting super big and popular. A lot more of the utility agents that you're going to see going forward. It's like if you need to get out to the masses and you're not building some super low level infra thing that you're selling to like 2 or 3 other low level infra players, like you only sell to L1s or L2s, like I think this is the right way to go. And again, we've seen it with our data. We've seen it with the overall feeling of the community. Like everything's been pretty amazing on just reaching that target retail audience.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, which is that these agents are valuable for protocols to launch if it helps them kind of reach and connect with their target users. You know, I always think about like the growth of crypto protocols as like having 2 stages of like you first have like network community fit and then like product market fit. And network community fit's like where you find the community to take whatever protocol it is you built and like actually build useful things out of it. And the second stage is like how do those useful things get used by people that make money? And I see this as being really interesting as like bootstrapping that first step of network community fit. Last thing here, Ash, you know, for any founder that that wants to do something like this or is thinking about doing something like this, how did you get it through your investors? Can you tell us maybe a little bit of the behind the scenes of like how people reacted, maybe what some of the difficult parts were?
Yeah, I think this is one area where I definitely got to be careful with what I say. But it was like the last 2 weeks of my life, like nonstop talking to lawyers. And this is like some guy who was like a CS nerd building his whole life. And then after that, like startup life for me until 2 weeks ago was like true YC nomad kind of mode. Talk to customers, build, see what people care about, quickly iterate, grow a team. Like it was fun. It was like all these different aspects. And like all I did for 2 weeks was like talk to lawyers and investors to really make sure that we're doing this right, which I think is important. Like there's the type of founder where, I don't know, like Adam Newman kind of vibes, like you just go full out, see what you can do, like don't give a fuck about anything. And I think doing too much of that is dangerous, especially in an evolving ecosystem. But at the same time, if you're in crypto and if you're in startups period, you need to be willing to try stuff out very quickly on a moment's notice. And I think that's what I'm most proud of with what we were able to do here. But yeah, I think the advice, and a lot of companies didn't do this. I'm not going to name them, but there's a lot of companies that raised way more money than us, launched an agent on virtuals, has zero utility, and they did not honor a lot of like agreements with investors or even notify people. And that's just not the way I would want to do it. I want every stakeholder and every person, including the public, to just kind of know what our plans are. But yeah, the legal side was a lot. I think the main thing was like getting clarity for people between an Axal token and then this Gecko token, almost as this like initial thing for Autopilot. That's whole focus is like this persona that's helping funnel in like traffic and also like gain some utility for that product versus like, okay, this isn't like you're launching your fucking like network token in 2 weeks and we're just going to get screwed. So I think that was like a big point to clarify. And the rest of it was pretty easy. It's like if somebody's your investor, they probably get the vibe of what I just said already. Like I said, A16Z was rightfully so more conservative. Like as you can imagine with AI16Z, they're actually in a whole legal thing with them right now too, which is kind of hilarious just off of the name, like little stuff like that. But I mean, it was. I felt like I was living a movie. Like there was a name that we wanted to go with, like Warren Buffett, instead of Gecko, like a play on Warren Buffett. And like there's this lawyer like deadpanning telling me like you can't do that unless you have like Berkshire Hathaway approval. And I'm thinking like there's no way this is happening. Like who actually like it was insane. So I don't know. Like it was tough, but you kind of just go through it, stick to your guns, like remind yourself why you're doing it, and then it'll be fine. If your conviction isn't there, or if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, then I think you get into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think one of the things I give you guys credit for is, you had this idea, you went full steam ahead to get it done. You really did it the right way in terms of getting the professionals involved to make sure all of the boxes were ticked. You kind of had those conversations with your lawyers, your investors, and everyone that you needed to, and then you kind of went to market. So, but I'll give you a lot of credit because I mean, when I first heard that you guys were doing this, I was kind of like, "What the fuck?" But y'all have definitely pulled it off, and it's an interesting experiment, right? Because, I think this is an interesting case study of you guys had launched your product, and it sounds like you guys have 2 to 3x like your community and your number of users just on the basis of launching this token and like really interacting with people. So, super interesting, man. Appreciate you coming on the pod. Last thing, if founders want to try this or think about this, how do you recommend they get started?
I mean, number one, just reach out to us. Like, I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants advice or experience here. Like, just ash@getaxel.com. Just email me, DM us on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Like I said, big shout out to the virtuals team. Like, so much of what we've done is just because they have the infra in place to make this easy. And there's a lot of fun frameworks too. Like AI16Z is doing really good stuff, and the ELIZA framework is powerful. But wherever you go, like the beauty of crypto and open source tech in general is you can move around as needed as things change up. But like, there's no secret sauce. You just gotta go and fucking do it. Like, I remind myself this every day, and I think I'm better than like my normie friends who aren't in tech or startups at all. Like, just like giving things a go. But like, there's not a single person on this planet who's really giving it their all. Like, there's always more that you can do, or always more that you can just try. Like, stop overthinking it. Like, left curve, just fucking go for a lot of things.
That's sick, man. Yeah, I was looking around in horror because I literally just like opened CoinMarketCap and I checked that AI16Z just crossed 2 billion. And is running hard on a very down day. So maybe this stuff is just getting started. But I leave it to smarter people like you to help me make those decisions. So really appreciate you coming on here and taking the time, man. People will reach out to you at ash@getaxel.com. Is there anywhere else they can kind of look these kinds of things up and find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people just ax.al. I think it's like the best purchase that I made. It was like one of the first fucking things that we did. Like super short, easy to remember. Everything's there. So just go to ax.al and everything else is from that.
Awesome. Well, with that, let's wrap this up, man. Thanks so much for coming back on, and excited for everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, appreciate it.